Hey guys, this is Will Schick from Privateer Press. I'm the Director of Business Development, and I'm here to show you a first look at our new app for Android and Apple devices called War Room. War Room is actually this really cool program. It's designed to be an all-inclusive Warmachine Hordes player's toolkit. The first big thing about War Room is that it actually lets you build and construct your own armies. Now when you do this, not only does it show you the different offerings for each faction, you can also click directly on those offerings and see the stat card pop right up, so you can quickly reference rules and abilities. For instance, I can see what Denegra's feat does, I can check out her spell list. On every card there are hot links, which allow you to click on certain sections and bring up a quick rules reference. This allows you to check out all of the prime and primal rules for abilities like double hand throw, any power attacks, so you don't have to carry a whole rule book around with you. Because War Room is a digital product, this means that we can quickly update live errata and rules clarifications as they become available, and expand the faction decks that players purchase in the app so that they always have the latest model releases available when they're building their armies. We've actually taken this one step further, and we're applying it to season models and special organized play models as well. This means that stat cards for those models will actually appear in the app, allowing players to use them when constructing their forces for those events. Now, army building is just a small part of what War Room actually does. In fact, the most exciting part about it is the fact that War Room allows players to host and join games from other War Room users. This means that I can set up and host games. Hop on, choose my army list. In this case, I'm going to pick my Crix army. I can, of course, go through, view all my different stat cards like normal, but I can also set up status and damage effects. So for this case, I'm going to go ahead and mark some damage on my Slayer here. I select a column, I put in an amount of damage. In this case, I'm going to choose 10. You see that the app automatically propagates the damage and marks off any systems that happen to be crippled from it. If I don't want to use the fancy version, I can actually go in and tap each individual box to heal damage or to mark specific damage as well. Now this is great for tracking on my end, but the real value in War Room comes from the fact that I can actually view my opponent's list in-game. So you can see here I'm looking at Lane's Trollbloods list. I can actually click on Borka, check out rules for his feat, his spell list, and whenever I want, without interrupting his gameplay, and I can also see damage or status effects that he's applied to his army, meaning that the action is always intense and fluid, and there aren't any real breaks in our gameplay. This has been just a small look at some of the great features offered by War Room for Warmachine Hordes. War Room will be free to download from Apple and Android markets this spring, and will include cards for all current Warmachine and Horde starter products. Full faction decks will be available to purchase in-app for $6.99. For more information on War Room, visit privateerpress.com.
The Iron Kingdoms is a fantasy setting where we have taken a number of traditional fantasy archetypes and kind of put our own spin on them. And we've set it within a backdrop of a region that is caught up in warfare and that is on the verge of an industrial revolution.
Anybody that plays Warmachine will immediately recognize the Iron Kingdoms. The games take place in the same setting, but what the Iron Kingdoms role-playing game does is it kind of lets you sort of take a behind-the-scenes look at all the inner workings of the cities and the ruins and that kind of thing. So you can really delve into the background of the setting as opposed to being on the forefront of sort of the major conflicts.
Well, one of the real strengths of our setting is that it's a really complex and diverse setting. There's a bunch of different cultures, but there's also a variety of types of adventure that you could explore. I think a lot more types of adventure than are usually afforded by your typical fantasy role-playing games.
The Iron Kingdoms is such a wide and richly developed world that there is no limit as far as what people can do and where they can go and what they can experience.
The rules system for the role-playing game will definitely be familiar to Warmachine and Hordes players. A lot of the stats are similar. There is a life spiral for characters similar to the life spiral for war beasts and hordes. The combat system also has a number of similarities. It is a 2d6 system plus the stat of the character. And so this is something that will enable players to really jump in from Warmachine and Hordes to the role-playing game very directly and quickly.
The first book in the Iron Kingdoms RPG is where we lay the foundation. It's the book that everyone needs to be able to jump in and explore this rich setting. So it includes the core rules, the basic character classes. It also has rules for GMs, a kind of an overview of all the different nations, the cosmology of the Iron Kingdoms, the different equipment that you can find for your adventuring needs. So it's the start.
The second book really dives into the details of the core Iron Kingdoms. So this includes Signar, Khador, the Protectorate of Menoth, Ord, and Lael. The third book really dives into the wilds of Emeryn. So this will give players the option to play warlocks. It has lots of war beast information and details. Also the wilder nations of hordes. These are things that really come to life in that third book. The next book covers some of the nations we haven't talked about yet, which are the ancient empire of the Scorn, the Crixian forces, the Dwarves of Rule, and the Elves of Ios.
Over the last 10 years, we spent a lot of time developing and refining our knowledge of the setting and working on a lot of additional details that now we can pour into this new role-playing game to give players a much deeper understanding of our setting than they've ever had before.
Really, I think, the reason anybody's going to want to play the RPG is the fact that it is such a relatable and diverse and in-depth setting. It provides a new system in which to explore and a really unique and individualistic world that players haven't had a chance to really been exposed to or seen outside of the Iron Kingdoms themselves.
The setting is so rich and so well defined and has so many opportunities for different types and different play styles that I think really anybody that enjoys RPGs or any of the other Iron Kingdoms war games like Warmachine and Hordes are really going to enjoy this product.
The theme of Heap is basically we took our famous Bodger cast of characters from Infernal Contraption and Scrappers, and we decided to do something like really different with them. And so we put them into this post-apocalyptic future waste world where roving bands of these goblins are running around battling over giant heaps of scrap that have been left over from the post-apocalyptic fallout.
You're trying to build up your vehicles. You're trying to get them the best weapons and the best the best engines and tires and things like that. So you're constructing things, it's fast-paced, there's a lot of action.
A Bodgers game is really about frantic, fast-paced, stab your buddy in the back kind of action and gameplay style in it. And so it should feel like there's a real energy going on and that players are constantly engaged and that things are fluid and moving.
Heap comes with more than 100 cards. You've got 4 vehicle cards for each player, each representing the different vehicle types that the player has in his little fleet of vehicles.
You also have parts, and the parts are really ubiquitous across the game. Not only do they represent the add-ons that you get to put onto your cars, they're also how you resolve combat, and more importantly, how your weapons function once they're attached to those vehicles. So we kind of took a lot of different concepts and really elegantly put them all into one single deck.
In Heap, color plays a really big part. First off, each vehicle is color-coded so that when you're using, say, the big rig, its color is orange. So when you're pulling parts, you want to get orange parts so that you can put those into your rig. During the combat phase, we also use color to represent your attacks and defenses, and we do this riffing off of the stoplight. You've got red, yellow, and green attacks. You've got red, yellow, and green defenses.
When you play an attack during the rush phase, you play that color of attack. Your opponent is then forced to block with a card that has that color in the block field. So if I attack you with a yellow symbol, you have to play a yellow defense symbol to be able to go on, and then your attack will carry on to the next person.
Each vehicle has different types of parts that it can be upgraded with. So not only do you have to match the color, you also have to pick different part types. So say you pick an engine and you've got an engine in your Doom Buggy. If you haul another engine, you can't have 2 engines. So you need to pick whichever one you like the best, and they'll have different abilities that trigger during the game.
As the game progresses, players will begin completing construction on their fleet of vehicles. The first player to attach 3 parts on each of their 4 vehicles initiates the pile-up stage. At the start of the pile-up, every vehicle that has 3 or more parts attached to it goes turbo, granting their owners additional abilities to use during the game's climactic final battle.
I think people are going to enjoy Heat because it's easy to learn, it's fast, and it's a lot of fun. All you need is a group of 2 to 4 friends and a table to play it on, and you're ready to go.
It's a feel-good game, and at the end of it, win or lose, everyone's going to have stories, and everyone's going to have a lot of laughs along the way. Anyone who's ever read the introductory fiction of Warmachine Prime, or Warmachine Prime Mark II, has heard the term Colossals, and the image they bring forth are these towering iron and steam-belching constructs that stand taller than forests and lay waste to entire armies.
Old Colossals were intended to be kind of mobile siege engines to basically lay siege to a city and to attack a city, whereas the new Colossals are really much more like supersized, massive warjacks that are intended to serve as weapons platforms for all of this artillery and firepower that has been developed in our settings since the old Colossals existed.
Colossals represent the next step in basically war technology. It's an arms race for all the different factions of Warmachine. So they've gone from warjacks and now they've sort of escalated it to these great big, much more hulking war machines, the Colossals.
Colossals not only dominate the battlefield through sheer power, they also dominate through sheer size. Your typical Colossal is twice as tall as a faction heavy. For instance, the Conquest is actually as wide as the Legion battle engine is tall, the Throne of Everblight. So these models are absolutely gigantic, and they dominate the space that they're in. And there's no question that the term Colossal truly applies to them.
What we have with the new Colossals is a warjack that's noticeably larger than even the heaviest warjack, but is still able to move like a warjack, still has some of the nimbleness and quickness that a heavy warjack would have, because it's based on similar technology and similar techniques, just scaled up.
These things really have a huge presence on the battlefield. They're truly impressive models.
The concept of Colossals has been being kicked around since Superiority, and in fact, if you go back to the fiction that appeared in that book, you actually see hints at what is to come and set up for these Colossals to appear on the battlefields of Western Immorin.
I think some initial drafts of them were play-tested in Mark I, but now that we've got Mark II and we've got our battle engines out, we really wanted to bring these models to life on the tabletop.
From a game perspective, what Colossals bring to the table are huge centerpiece models that are absolutely gorgeous, loaded with detail, and they encompass that kind of devastating mobile firepower that's really iconic of what normal warjacks can bring, but they exemplify it tenfold.
The addition of Colossals to Warmachine is designed to basically just give players even more options. Whether you go bigger games with more models including Colossals, or whether you go sort of smaller games but with the really big heavy hitters.
Our ultimate goal was to make sure that we created a model that was truly a powerful piece and that players would enjoy and have fun playing, and that would exemplify what it means to be a Colossal without making it game-breaking. So just as with the battle engines, we strove really hard to make sure that you have these gorgeous centerpiece models that do their work on the table, but that aren't instant win buttons and that players have to field to be able to be competitive within the tournament scene or even on a casual play surface.
The major differences between battle engines and Colossals is the Colossals are warjacks, so they get focused, they can make power attacks. They are part of the battle group, so they get affected by battle group spells. And on the power attack side of things, they actually get 2 new power attacks. Because of their size, they're able to do a couple of things that your standard light and heavy warjacks can't do.
One of the first things anybody looking at a Colossal card is going to notice is the fact that they have 2 damage grids. This is really important because it really lets us show the size and the durability of these machines. It also plays into the fact that each Colossal has 2 separate weapon systems, one on the left and one on the right.
And it's also got a new system called a superstructure system. So Colossals, many of them have very big guns that can attack in both fields of fire. Something akin to a turret for a tank, right? On top of the Conquest, he's got a huge battery of guns that can just fire and cover his whole front arc.
So the double damage grid really allows them to be represented properly on the tabletop in terms of resilience, in terms of system integrity, and in terms of sheer size.
Designing the Colossals gave us a few challenges in the production and creative end of things. One of the things we wanted to make sure didn't happen was it looked like we took a standard size warjack and just made it bigger. We want to retain the level of detail that you see on the regular, like say, heavy warjacks.
How small can we make these rivets? Can we put them here and put them over here? Can we get away with this thing? Can we get away with that thing? I really wanted to make all the guns rotatable, head movable. I want to make sure the arms can go around, get these stiff robots, bring some life into them, posing them out, getting them and feeling some life, and just going through and adding lots of little subtle details to them to really bring out the scale. Actually have the pistons be separate, so when the waist rotates, we can have the little pistons rotate with the waist, so that we enjoyed being able to bring out these little details better.
After all the work we put into the models, we wanted to have a paint job that was deserving, of such a great quality piece.
One of the nice things about painting these larger models is you're able to use different techniques, newer techniques. You can use airbrushes. You can use multiple colors of primer and spray paint as your base coat. Matt was able to use a salt weathering technique, putting down like a rust base coat and putting salt on, and then spraying the base coat over that, like the color blue or red, and like knocking the salt off, and it automatically makes all these like chip effects.
So these aren't just enlarged models. They're just as intricate and just as detailed, and we really tried to sort of keep that level of quality that we strive for in every model that we do. When it came to getting the artwork together for Colossals, one of the things we really wanted to give these things a feeling of was just that they were epically huge. We've got the Protectorate of Menoth Colossal marching through the streets of Alale's city and blowing it apart. It really kind of gives you that kaiju movie feeling, right? It's just a huge robot leveling a city. We've got the Kraken rising up from the view of a foot soldier. We've got long gunners and some pirates, dock workers and stuff running around, and he's accompanied also rising up out of the water with some of the Revenant crew guys, the undead pirates. But we really wanted to capture that sort of piratey theme that Crix has going on, and what better way than to have the Kraken eating a pirate ship. In the illustration for the Conquest, we really wanted to capture the moment where the Conquest is presented to the Cadoran people, this great work that the Empire has done. So we used a parade sort of point of view, and this illustration is amazing. It's got literally dozens of Winter Guard in formation. The Conquest is flanked by Spriggans, and you've got the Empress up on her balcony, sort of overlooking the whole procession. And we really just wanted to put the viewers on the ground floor, at street level, literally looking at this thing marching down the street with the Cadoran colors flying, and sort of to capture that national pride and that terror of, oh my God, what have we gotten ourselves into? My reaction to the first time that I saw a finished Colossal, which was the Conquest, was my jaw hit the floor. Like, I had the biggest smile on my face about a model that I've had since I started working at Privateer Press.
When I was walking through the office and Ed Burrell, our creative director, yelled at me to come into his office, and I figured that something was up, so I walked in, and there on his table was a completed Conquest.
and we basically held it up and we paraded it around the office, and every single person was just flabbergasted.
You'd hold it in your hands, and we just ran around the entire company just being like, look, look, and it's just the reactions from everyone was just like, wow, it's really happening.
It was the first time where we got to see the final result of all the hard work that we put in, and it was totally worth it.
I'm looking forward to that more than anything, is to show up at a convention, a game store, seeing the pictures online of people going like, here's my Colossal, painted up how I wanted to see it, with my army on a beautiful layout. Dream come true right there. That's what I live for. I love it.
And I hope that they have the same kind of joy and exuberance as they wreck somebody's face with their Colossal that we had the first time when we saw them working on the table, and we really started to understand, the different strategies and tactics you had to bring to make models, to make Colossals really work within your army.
Bigger is better.